want to take you inside my reporter's notebook to talk about the history of animosity between the U.S. and Iran. And the context behind this really comes down to one major issue: intervention. The history of that really begins in 1953. That's when the CIA helped stage a coup in Iran that caused the country's democratically elected prime minister to be overthrown. The US then backed Iran's monarch to become Shah, or ruler of Iran. Iranians were angry, resentful that the US had meddled in their affairs, and that anger rose over the decades. In 1979, millions of Iranians took to the streets to protest the rule of the Shah, who they saw as corrupt and illegitimate. He was forced to flee the country in what is now known as the Iranian Revolution, or the Islamic Revolution by the current government, because this is when an exiled Muslim cleric, Ayatollah Khomeini, returns to become supreme leader of the country and declares Iran the world's first Islamic Republic. Things get a lot worse when supporters of the supreme leader storm the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and take dozens of Americans hostage. The Iran hostage crisis, which lasted for 444 days, led to the U.S. cutting diplomatic ties with Iran. The two countries were now very firmly enemies. In 1984, the U.S. declared Iran a state sponsor of terror, designation that still stands today. And in 2002, President George W. Bush described Iran as a member of the axis of evil. But under President Barack Obama, hope emerges. Iran had been stepping up its nuclear enrichment program, but historic negotiations were able to reach a landmark deal in 2013 to curb Iran's nuclear program in exchange for warmer relations with the U.S. But that hope was short-lived. When President Trump took office, he quit the nuclear deal in 2018 and later ordered the killing of Iran's top general, Qasem Soleimani, dealing a major blow to the country's military. Hope was for now dashed. But when Trump returned to office in 2025, he actually sought out mediation efforts and wrote a letter to the Ayatollah calling for negotiations. There were indeed talks held between Tehran and Washington, but when war broke out in the summer of 2025 between Iran and Israel, the U.S. sided with Israel and later carried out its own airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. That really brings us to the present day, with massive protests triggering a brutal crackdown inside the country, and the U.S. yet again considering intervention as a possible solution, despite the history.